No.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Hey. Yes. Harinakshi ma'am, you can tell me when to start.
Okay, madam. Should we wait for 2 minutes, ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am, I think you can start now.
Start? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Just give me a few seconds, okay? Okay. So, good evening to all of you. Uh, I was being asked, to do some session on web development. So I thought I and then because you people have gone through a lot of AI and all those things, so I prepared in a different way. But then I thought, okay, let's do what students want. It should be a student-centric learning, not the trainer-centric. So anyway, we will start with that. I have prepared the session assuming that you have just started and you have the basic idea or no idea at all. So I'm just taking that base where you don't have any idea of coding, or you don't, you may have slightest idea about it. So keeping that in mind, today's session is decided. Tomorrow also I have a session at the same time. So tomorrow, most probably, we will be doing the practical if I am able to cover what I'm trying to cover today. Because before we go for any practical session or anything like that, we should actually have an idea that what is web development all about. right? What kind of technologies we use in front end? What are the various kinds of supporting technologies? What are the trend in a web development? What is happening? What is the How do you host your site? How do you buy a domain name? Little bit idea. Then I will tell you that how, without spending any money, you can start first by doing something. So let's go step by step. So if you want to ask me anything, you can post a question on the chat box and I'll be able to answer that. Or else, what we can do is in the end, we can take up the questions. I would ask the students to pay attention, because if you have the base of understanding that what is the development all about, web development, how do you create a site, what are the various hosting platform, what are the technology used to make a web page, or is there something which is very popular now, and I will be my practical. See, the thing is, students, that your trainers offline will be teaching you HTML, CSS, Java, all those kinds. So I'm not going to teach you the coding. We are not here to do those kinds of teaching for you. This coding and all will be learning in your center. What I'll be doing is I will be teaching you that when you're designing a website, what are the things you should look for, and how should you make a most interactive site, and how do you analyze whether your site is so good that the traffic which you are able to draw to your site is staying in your site. So something in the site website and all, we say bounce rate, all those times things. Slowly we will go ahead with that. So let's start now without any delay. So I'm going to just start sharing my PPT first. Just a minute. Okay. Just give me a few seconds. I'm just setting up the screen. So can you all see the screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
So the session is basically on web development. This is the first introductory session. As I said, that I have assumed that there is a very basic knowledge about it, and there might be a lot of things which you might be having in hand. So let's start from the base instead of going ahead with starting away directly with the website building and all. So let's start that. What are the things you should be knowing in case if you want to develop a website for a company, if you want to be in a content development, or if you want to be in designing an architect of a website, what should be there? So what are we going to learn today in this session is, we are going to learn about the web first. You have to first understand the web. Then you need to know that how do we plan and prototype a site. See, just like a product, when a new product is made, always the company R&D department come up with an idea. They develop the technology, or maybe they develop and assemble the product. They make a prototype of the product, and then they make few samples. They run those prototype with certain number of people or a sample population to see the reaction, and then finally the final products are commercialized, or it is produced and commercialized. So there is a lot of stage through which the product development take place. Similarly, website building is also a service industry. So how do you build a particular website for a company? If you are asked to build a particular website for a company, how do you build that? And how do you go ahead with creating a very good interactive website? And if you're making a website for a company, then what does the client want? what kind of design is resonating with their brand. All those things you have to look into. For that, prototype is must. What are the technology of the front end? What are the supporting web technology, web development with technologies? And in the end, I will be showing you today just a demo of how do we do now, and I will be focusing on that. And this will be a project for you for next week before we meet. You all will, because this is so simple that in one day you can learn all these things. So we will be exploring the no code solution or no code web development tools. Okay. So let's start. Let's first start with the first topic, which says understanding web. Now, what are we going to learn in this? In this, we're going to learn what is client and server. What's the difference between that? The cloud versus website, the native apps versus web app, and also the web browser. These are very important components of website development. Okay, so let's see one by one. Let's look into understanding the client and server. Okay, so when we are understanding the client and server, the two words which I have used here, which are very often used in web designing, is the development space, are, in this particular space, are client and server. So let's start with the server first. So this is a word which refer to a software or a hardware both. Server are both hardware and software that serve files or serve to the website to a computer which requests. So normally when we talk about a server, whenever we talk, we see, we get these kinds of pictures with, or we imagine that server room with a lot of big cabinets, kinds of facilities, all those kinds of things are there. So the server software, basically, when we are talking, as I said, that it refers to both hardware, server hardware, and server software. Server software runs on the server hardware, obviously, and sometimes the server software is located elsewhere also, not necessarily. It's not, you should not get confused. Let us clarify this. So whenever you are talking about a server room, you're thinking about an air conditioned space with a lot of cabinet kinds of computers, which doesn't look like a normal PC with a monitor, with a CPU, with a keyboard and all. You don't see any input device, just you see a box, a kind of a CPU kind of box with racks, wires everywhere, and some poor server, maintenance person who's staying might be in the server room with some hoodie on it. You might have imagined that or might have seen in a movie, because most of us doesn't get the chance to go and go into the servers, because suppose if you take the servers which is mostly in the remote area, undisclosed area, very secured area, a lot of security, like Google servers provide 6 layer of security to their server rooms. So that's a different case, because those people who are doing cyber security should know about all those things. Maybe when we are touching about cyber security, we will discuss about the server room security also. So these servers as hardware, let us look into server as a hardware. So as I said, that there will be a lot of wires and all those things, and all those kinds of stuffs are there. So when we are talking about server as a hardware, it can be a very powerful computer. Unlike our laptops and normal PC, these powerful computer will have a special kind of a configuration, which will handle many simultaneous connection. That means one server may handle 10 or 12 or maybe 100,000 computers connected to it. Now these computers are not connected through wires. So how these computers are connected, and they can serve them for any kind of particular specific task. This can be a file server which can store all kinds of files for them. This can be a kind of a database server which can store the database of a particular company, like employee database, customer database, marketing, so many things. It can be a proxy server, it can be an email server like for Gmail and all. It can be a print server, it can be web. So you can allocate a particular server for particular task and name it. So these kinds of different servers, software like database server or cloud computing server, file server, web server software. So web server software is what we are interested in. We're not interested in the hardware part, because hardware does what? It basically, with a kind of a software, for example, maybe an application called hypervisor, it will create virtual machines. So those people who are doing the cloud computing, they might be learning about it, that how using a AWS, Amazon Web Service, you can create a lot of virtual machine and use it with all kind of configuration. And you can, it is like pay as you go. You use it for a few days, few hours, or few months, and as you are using, you're paying for it. So you don't have to buy a very powerful server today, because cloud computing can give you all those kinds. Amazon Web Service can create a virtual machine for you, and using your laptop or a normal PC, you connect and you can access the hardware of those server which you have configured and you're paying for virtually. So those are possible today. We are, for web development, not interested in that. For web development, yes, in the web development, AWS is there. That also I will give you a project where you can create a static or dynamic web page. I will tell you about using AWS platform, but that will be in the advanced stage. I don't want to jump to that stage, because as I said, that we have to take the basic step from starting from A and then reach to the Z. So server software is what web development should be interested in, and most of the server softwares are open source software like Apache.
Hello, excuse me, ma'am. This is the director this side. I think you are doing web development. We are very thankful that you have adhered to our request. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So there are a lot of open source software students which are available. I will request students to make a note of it, because all these things, maybe it is available in YouTube. They may share a link with you, but then these are important because you should know the basic of this. So there are a lot of server software which are open source, like Apache, Nicknins. Some are proprietary from big companies like Oracle, Microsoft, and IBM. Okay. And when the web server software run on a web server hardware, as I said, it can be on AWS. You can create a virtual machine and you can run a web server software like Apache, or maybe a software from Oracle or Microsoft and IBM on it. And that system is maintained by a company who will sell you some of the space. So there will be a kind of a company, there will be a company who will, because when you're creating a website, it is just like a file or a folder on your computer. But on your computer, you are storing it on hard disk. But how do you store this particular files which you have created with some information? You need some space, and you cannot put it on your computer local desktop because that is accessible by you. You need to publish your site. When you are publishing your site, that means you need to host it. And when you need to host your website, and when you build a website, you need a web host. Okay. So web host and all, I'm going to talk about that later because there is an entire slide on that or entire session on that. So let us move to the client, which is the one portion. So you understood that server will be a one centralized computer. As the name suggests, server, that means it serves to all those computers which are connected to that. So it may store a database file for you. It can be an email server for you, which can store all kinds of email for your company. It can be a proxy server for you or a print server for you. So that particular thing we are done. Now let's look into client. Now the client computers, you may whenever we think of a client, we think about a person who hire you to do certain type. For example, in a software company, every company like Accenture or HP or any company, even IBM, they get the project from the client. It can be a company like Walmart giving them some project, or a Scotland Bank giving them some project. So those are their client. But I'm not talking about those business kind of a client. Here in this, we mean that a client is a device that is connected to a web server, because we in the web development talk a different kind of server which hosts your site and fulfill the request to download that site on your, and that is called web server. So we are talking typically here about a particular server called web server, which will host your site and which will basically fulfill the need or request of the client for downloading those information on their computer. And client are those computers which are connected to the server and which request the server to for the web pages to be downloaded on their own computer. So what the client does, they request the server, and like for example, you are connecting, you are going to Google. The Google search is the web page, which is the collection of web page, which is called website, is stored in the server, the Google server. And the Google server, so your computer is a client, and the Google web server is connected to the client as soon as you request through your internet service provider. The request goes to the Google server, and the Google web server will then fulfill your request, and through internet those information which you are searching in the form of web page will get downloaded on the client computer. So this is called client. So the client, what it does is typically it basically try to talk to the to the servers, okay, for the web pages to be displayed. So in a typical Mac or a PC computer, the client is the web browser, right? The client is a web browser, not your computer, not your PC. Remember this thing, because these are the things which are asked normally by the company. So who are the typical client in web server cases? It is web browser like Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Edge, or whatever. Your phone or tablet may have different choice of web browsers, but they still function in the same way. I will talk about web browsers also, how do they function. So the client does not have a typical web browser. For example, if you are using, certain clients does not use web browser. For example, if you're using OTT platform like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, or Amazon Prime, whatever services you are using on smart TV, they are also client. But in this case, the web browser is not used as a client. Okay. So the client is connected to all these are in the form of a native app, which are connected to the appropriate server to send you a TV show or movie on demand. So regardless of what the client it is, the job of the client is to request a web page or some content to be delivered or to be downloaded from the server where it is stored and display them on the screen of the client or on the screen of laptop or whatever they're using. So you enter a web address in the browser, okay, and you choose a movie on the application. Let's say you are watching on Netflix, and you just click on the netflix.com, you go through the web application, and you choose the request, and then you choose a movie on the Netflix. After you log in, the request is sent over the internet to appropriate server, and the server gathers all the codes, images, videos, audio, whatever else is needed to display that in the form to client computer. So on your client computer, which is a TV or it can be a laptop computer, where on your computer all these codes and all these things will get displayed. So from the server, all these images, videos, audio, whatever is there, it will go back to the client computer and get displayed. So client receive these assets and follow the code to assemble these pieces, which are in the form of audio, video. See, whenever you're downloading any entertainment movie or web series, it is a mixture of image, video, and audio. All these are having a different codes. All these codes are assembled by the web server and it is sent to the client. And the client then assemble these pieces again and fill your request. So all these are happening in the backend. Okay. So the web client is a device in front of you which runs some type of software that allow you to connect to the desired web server. So the web server will send you all the pages and it will store all the pages which is there. So Netflix, your TV is not storing all entertainment program. Your TV is a client, and when you connect your TV to the internet through the TV, when you click on the Netflix app immediately connect to the web server of Netflix. And from there, the request is sent whenever you click on certain movie or web series, and all the related video, audio, and the images content will get downloaded on your computer depending on the speed of your internet. Okay. Now, let's understand the next concept. So we have understood the concept of client and server. Let's now go ahead and understand the concept of cloud versus website. Okay, just give me a few seconds. Now, whenever we think about a cloud or we ask a question, what is a cloud? Everybody says, okay, cloud is nothing but it's an internet, right? The internet, which is designed to be a centralized one, there can be a different kind of information which are stored on the cloud. Normally, people always feel that, cloud is a storage, facility on internet, and they are meant for storing something somewhere, which we don't know, in some server, in some place, right? But actually, that is not cloud. So people who are doing cloud computing, I will not move more into and elaborate more into that. I will focus on what is related to web development in that. So some example I will give you that how those kinds of things work, because the cloud doesn't store only your data file, but it also store your application, your web pages. You can post your entire website with all number of pages and files and everything on a cloud, and you can run that application on the cloud. So it can be your own server, or it can be somebody else also server. So in the form of cloud services, it can be on Amazon Web Service also. Okay. And a great example of the cloud basically is email. So 20 years ago, email was frequently stored on computer in front of you. You used to, because that was a time when corporate people basically used to use Outlook Express or Eudora, which used to pull out all the email from the server, from Outlook, from maybe Gmail or any of the Yahoo Mail or whatever you're connecting with, and they will download that and save it on your computer. And later on, even if you're offline, you can go ahead and you can read that. So this was a very different kind of a model. So what happened when you wanted to read your mail? Suppose for that, now in order to read the mail which is stored on your computer locally using these email client like Outlook Express or Eudora, you need your own computer. You need to, because your emails are stored on your hard drive. So what if you are not carrying your computer with you? You have to access these email from some other computers, from some other place. So either you take up a backup of your email or transfer it, ask somebody to transfer it to those computer. So today, this kind of situations is not there because most of the people have cloud-based email like Gmail, Yahoo Mail. Even though those days the Gmail and Yahoo Mail was also cloud-based, but their own server. But the concept is changing slowly and advancing slowly. Even Outlook 365, which leaves your mail in the cloud. Outlook initially used to store mail in your hard disk, but today Outlook 365 will store your mail in the cloud. Like in MacBook, you can store all your content in Dropbox, or you can put it in the iCloud. So a lot of stuffs like that is happening. The services, these services, backup also, create a backup of your email if you want. They store email on the servers. So these are called cloud-based email. So the cloud-based email technology, which you use every day nowadays, include remote file storage location like Dropbox or Google Drive, or it can be a iCloud, or it can be a OneDrive. They give you free space, and these services are becoming very, very popular now, where you can share files with the others. You can store file regardless of the device. You can access this file from any device, from anywhere, from any place. So cloud apps maybe, but sometimes what happens if you want to use the cloud apps offline, that also facilities are there. Initially, when they started, it was like you have to connect to the internet to get your file sync into your computer. So when the computer is connected to the internet, nowadays, the data gets synced with the cloud, and the cloud app may use the web browser to function, but they may also use some other application. For example, Dropbox may be accessed through website, or it may run through an application on your computer, like in a Mac I'm using. So I'm just uploading all these things from my Dropbox. It may run, or maybe you can use it from the Google Drive also. So it may run through an application on your computer. There can be a Dropbox or Google Drive, OneDrive, whatever it is. You can still use Dropbox through the application if your computer is not on internet. Because, but thing is that your file should have been synchronized on your computer. If it is sync on your computer, so it get this. First time when you're doing, you need to be connected to the internet. Okay. So then the file gets synced and then it is available on you. Without internet also, you can access this. So web app is an application that run inside a web browser. And like example is eBay. Okay. And it's a web app. You may browse, buy, sell all kind of products on eBay. But only if you are connected to the internet, then only you can do that. So web apps are those apps where you're required to get connected, like your WhatsApp. That's a web app application. Whether you are using a desktop application form or you using on your mobile, you need to connect to the internet to access those things which are there. So there is no offline mode for these. So web app basically work only when you are on online. So there are only some of the differences between a cloud app and a web app. Okay. So there are others also, like for example, the differences can be in the form of system architect. When you study this in detail, you'll find out all those kinds of things. You can do the course. So I'm not going in deep into that. Let's move into the other concept of the difference between a native apps and web app, because this is also essential that we should know about it. So native app and web app are, the certain terms which people get easily confused with this. So if you are a developer, the differences are very straightforward. But if you are a consumer, the differences are very difficult to understand this. Both native and web app run on phones and tablets. It can run on both. A native app is an app designed for specific operating system like iOS or Android. And native apps are often coded using programming languages like, this is web app, programming languages like C++, Java, Swift, some other choices are also there. So these languages require compiling before they can run on a given device. Each platform provides their own interface element and development tool for creating native apps. So compiler, interface element, development tools, all these debugger or also debugging mechanisms, these are distributed in the form of some form of a software development kit, which is we call SDK. So because there's a large programming required in the native app, they tend to be more expensive to build. And once built, native app are placed in appropriate location for downloading. Often it can be in the App Store or Google Play or something like that, or maybe in the iStore. So there are many kind of a requirement for having your app listed in these locations. Whether you are listed in the App Store or you're listed in the Google Play, you need to have certain requirement met. Then only you can do. Alternative, you can ask website visitor to download a native app. In any case, the site visitor must download and install this native app on their device to use it. Native app may run offline also. It may not require a constant connection to the internet. For example, consider Gmail. Suppose if you are using a Gmail website for writing and sending an email. And most of the time when you're not connected, suddenly your connection is gone. It will show you on the top that you are not connected to the internet while you are writing. Indeed, what it may lose a part of email. If you're using a Gmail app on the phone and tablet, you may write an email when the phone is connected to the internet and then send the email when you're back in touch. So what happens in offline also, you can create and store it as a draft. And as soon as you get connected, it can be sent. So that kind of a thing, it can work offline for writing mail, but for sending the mail and all, you require a connection for it. So web apps, let's talk about the web app now. Web apps are very different from native app. Although their user interface may often look like same only, there's hardly any difference a consumer can make out. So web app always run through a web browser. Remember this. And there is nothing to download to use it. Simply visit the website on your device, and using your standard web browser, you will be able to access this web app. Gmail website is an example of web app. These days, web apps are often built with the help of programming languages like JavaScript, HTML, CSS, which we are going to discuss later in this session. So web app may talk to a database which is located on web server. In this case, there may be some server side programming language involved. For example, like PHP, Python, Ruby, or JavaScript. No compiling is needed for web app to run, and there is no app store or web for web app. So each methodology have its own advantage and disadvantage. Like web app, as I said, that are cheaper, okay, than the native app, because in the native app you need to have certain condition met and pay to the stores to upload it. Most of them is free only in Android, but in iStore, it is App Store, it is little difficult. So web app are cheaper, cheap to maintain. Updation is very accessible, very easy to do. Web app doesn't work offline. That also you should know. You should be connected to internet to use web app. Web app aren't uploaded on App Store. You can't do that because there's no check work for issues. Security issues are also there. For native app, they may run offline. As I said, that if you have a Gmail app on your mobile phone, you can just download and write a mail, and when you are connected, you can just use it, or you can check your mail also offline. So they use a common interface element between it. Then native apps are little expensive to build, maintain, and update because it need to be approved, as I said, by the app stores like Google Play Store or the Apple Store. So it is time consuming, it is expensive, and all those kinds. Okay. So if you're preferring to work with a company of all sizes, then working with a web and building application will fit. Most of the time, you can have both native app as well as the web app. Okay. So now let's look into the concept of web browser. So what is a web browser? Almost those who are engineer, they may know it, but for those people who are non-engineering background, for them, I must tell. So web browser is a software which you see to launch sites. You have to use a web browser. It can be a Chrome, most properly used. It was Internet Explorer initially with Microsoft Windows. And then you have Safari for Mac. Then you have Firefox, Opera, and there are a lot of other things. Now you have Internet, you have Edge. So there are other browser packages also there. But normally the browser work is to communicate with the web server, request them for pages, and when they receive those pages, display those pages which is received in the form of code into the images, video, audio on what is there inside the web page, assemble that and show it to the as an output. So browser understand only 3 type of codes, which is so this is how the web browser work. They understand only these technologies, these 3 codes, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we'll go through this technology later on, little bit basic of this. So these technology work together to create a very beautiful, meaningful, interactive web page. So the W3C, that means World Wide Web Consortium, they write the standard for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, along with the other technology. So the specification describe exactly how the code should function and work. So browser manufacturers or the browser builders should follow the specification exactly so that all the web pages have a uniformity. So browser may display a video and image and play audio also, whatever it is. However, the browser may not know all the same file format for this real time. So unfortunately, the browsers have certain downfalls. Because of that, some browsers are very popular, some are not. Sometimes certain browsers will not display the website in the same way it is coded. Through the years, the browsers have improved now suddenly, but they have to follow the W3C, standard. The web developer has spent, web developer today is spending very less time in coding, and web pages are looking very interactive, very colorful, and very beautiful, and navigation and all are very good. And there are only few bugs between the browser So the testing code is critical to make, So it is very important that when you're making a website, you need to see whether the website, when you're launching finally and publishing, how it looks, how does it function on different devices, different browsers. This is very important. Like, how does it look on the Edge, or how will it look on Safari? So before you launch it publicly, the web developers try to test it. As I said, the prototype you have to test. So there are certain site people, students, you can write down this. So this website, like for example, caniuse.com. This is a site which I'm displaying here. So caniuse.com is used by the web developers basically to find out whether the different kinds of browsers support various HTML elements you have used to create your site, CSS property, or JavaScript method. There are also some other websites like MDN, WebDoc, okay, for documentation of codes, for reference material. So in general, the developer basically try to use two major, they try to test their site on two major popular web browser, which is Firefox and Chrome, for the development work. Because these are very user-friendly and long-lasting, and the browser run on both Mac and PC. So that's what. So Safari is also available to the Mac user, while Edge is only available on PC. So there is some limiting, a limitation in some of the development environment, web development environment. Okay. So also you should not forget about the browser on the phones. Okay. When we are talking about this, we should also know about the browser on the phones, which we are using on phones. So we use the same browser, Safari and Chrome and all, but they may function slightly different because the screen is a little smaller. The testing will be a little different. So when you are doing a testing with the actual physical device, then what happens in many companies have several devices identified. So before they publish it for the audience, they try to test on those devices, and these are used for that. So you need to actually have a better understanding of browser also before you go for web development. Now let's look into the three technology for the front end. Okay. Now we all know that there are three technology which you people will be learning. Your offline trainer or other trainers are well versed with it. They're going to teach you about it. So I'm just going to give you a basic idea about it. So HTML is, so we have three technologies: HTML, CSS, and JS. Okay, JavaScript and the other one. We are going to talk about that. HTML, let's see about that. So HTML is hypertext markup language. HTML is all about identifying commonly used structural elements like paragraphs, headings, list, link, and more. So HTML is basically used to create a structure of the website. So computer understands the structure of the document through this kind of markup. So this will help with searching documents, search engine optimization, making document accessible, all those. So let's go over these first element of HTML and see what is this all about and where do we use in web development. So HTML is all about the page structure, right? So we have, here if you see, and if you see whatever example here I have given, I've not used anywhere a blue. So some of you who have a knowledge might be thinking about that, because that's not here the part of the HTML. That is the CSS, the cascading style sheet. So your web browser has certain unstyled look if you make a page in HTML. But HTML has no inherent look on it itself. Second, HTML is all about element. There is an element for every need. There are over 100 element you work with, and finally use the right element for the right structure. If you are representing a paragraph using a paragraph element, then you have to use the paragraph element. Sorry. If you are using a quote, then you have to use a quote element. Okay. So let's quickly go through the HTML, how HTML is formed. So then an example of a link. that's made up of opening and closing tag, if you can see here. In this case, the A stands for anchor, and it is used in creating a link. So when we, so this particularly HTML code is for creating a link on LinkedIn. Okay. So when we talk about the two tags together, this refers to the element, okay, here and here. And you notice in the opening tag, we have a few modifiers available to us, which is called attributes. And the H reference, the href, that is called H reference attribute, which stands for hypertext reference. In other words, where do we want this link to go? Okay, this particular code is written for a link to open. The target attribute address, where you can see down here, the target attribute address is where we would like this link to open. So the link is this www.linkedin.com, and where the link will open, it will open in a blank page. Okay, so we want it to open it in a new window or a new tab in the browser rather than opening in the same window or a tab. Okay, so the word, so if we are inserting this, suppose if we are inserting in a web page a link of a LinkedIn, and if we are using that, we don't want the LinkedIn to open on the same window, it should open in a new tab. So that's why the target is given as a blank and this. So in this case, this text will be functioning on the page as a link, okay, and a hyperlink or something. And so how will that look? So what is happening in this case? The text is, like, as I said, it's a hypertext link. Okay. So 1 minute, just a minute. Just give me a second, please. I'm getting an important call. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so as I said, that this particular tag, what we have written is look like a kind of a hyperlink. So by default, the link are, so this is how it is. I was telling you that. So it also depends on what CSS is saying. Now, if you see by default, the link are blue. Normally, when we write the link, it should be blue. Okay, and underlined also, like in this case. So according to the browser style sheet, we would we will like that our website developer have a overridden that default behavior and made it look sometime different. So we can do that also in this. Okay, so structure can be without blue or without underlining also. Finally, you can have an element nested inside an element. Okay, so here I have used the paragraph element composed of these p tag. Okay, if you can see that, to wrap up our text. And you can notice that elements are nested inside each other wooden dolls, you can see that. The tag is completely contained within the paragraph. So that's the proper way to work with your HTML tags. You can close the paragraph before all the element insides are closed. The HTML is an excellent skill to master. As many content creators, don't underestimate the HTML and think, no, I should just learn. You should learn. If you want to become a web developer, website developer, you need to learn all the three codes, because all of these three codes have their own benefit and pros and cons. So HTML is an excellent skill you can master for content creator. You can wind up or encountering a little, if a code might be, HTML actually is really fun to learn, and it is very easy also to learn. Okay, So start with that. Let's look into now CSS. As you all know that CSS stands for cascading style sheet. Okay. And it looks very pretty if it arrange elements on the web pages. So CSS basically is an idea to make a very beautiful site, the design of the style. Style sheet as the concept have existed in print and software for a long time. Like for example, in say, because as I will tell you the difference, HTML make the structure of the page, whereas CSS give a look to the page. Okay, like for example, the font color, the margin, size, and all those kinds, right? So let's take an example and understand this. Okay, so the example can be a minute, just go back. The example can be a Word file. So style, if you're styling your Word file, when you write a Word file, document file, you may use different kind of fonts, font size, font style, margin, colors. The same is true with CSS. Here, you will declare that you want your document to use specific font in which CSS I'm saying. A page is a document only, like a web document page, Microsoft document page. You need a specific font. For example, headline should be in red color, bold, it should be italic, or it should be a have Times Roman or Calibri, whatever font size, color, spacing, layout, and the web page should act like that. HTML, therefore, simply outlines the structure of the web page, whereas CSS give it the entire overall look. So where does that look of unstyled HTML is little bit unstyled? Okay, so those giant times, new Roman headers, the blue underlying links, these come from a style sheet on our web browser. So HTML itself has no look, actually speaking. It just gives a structure. So this is a super important concept to understand, students. One that is commonly forgotten and confused by many professional web developers, that CSS is often contain its own separate document, which is linked to your HTML file. So CSS is formatted in the following way. Like if we state that all the paragraph in HTML document should have text color with this hashtag FF, then 4 times zeros, or that means red color. The color is written as hexadecimal code specifying the shade of the red. Okay, so what if we want to just have one paragraph as red paragraph, maybe warning of some kind, when you want to flash the warning, the last date is over in the e-commerce site, red flash sales, like this, when they keep it on the red warning because they want people to give attention to that. So we can use a CSS class to make that happen on your website. The cascading part of the CSS is a little more difficult to understand, but the sub developers spend years actually nowadays. It takes a lot of time to understand and how it works, because see, I have not been able to understand. I understand HTML very well, but CSS still there's so much of doubt. So there are styles that are broad, applied to many elements on the page. You can override some of this. So the biggest problem with CSS is the constantly underrated language. Because the syntax is straightforward, the CSS language is actually growing yearly with the new style property, values, way to lay out your web pages. Animating elements are added nowadays. So different kinds of style, different kinds of animations, you can do it with the CSS. Though it is, people feel that CSS is very complex, it has a very complex syntax. It's a complex language, it will take time to master like any other. But if CSS, you should learn, because if you are a graphic designer, and the CSS is must to learn in that. Okay. And as I said, that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all are required for web development. So now let's look into JavaScript. So let's understand by something like, imagine a web as a rock band, and HTML can be like a bass and drum in that rock band, the instruments, which will create a foundation for other musicians in the band. CSS will be like a rhythm guitar in that, okay, establishing a bass chord or something like filling holes. JavaScript will be the lead singer in that. So without JavaScript, we could have functional web pages, but they will be boring. JavaScript is the special sauce that makes the web page interactive. Okay. Most of these items that change online are driven by JavaScript, like the panel that expand and contract, animation, drop downs, fade outs, error checking, scrolling, all these things which make a website very interactive have some type of JavaScript behind them. So JavaScript is a scripting language invented in 1990 by Netscape, the company behind the very early web browser that was also called Netscape at that time, the first browser. So JavaScript and Java have nothing to do with each other. Actually, people get confused with that. Java is used more for application, okay, and particularly in Android-based application in a big data. JavaScript was born on the web and continue to live there. So like CSS, JavaScript is usually contained in its own document. It is linked again to the HTML pages where it will be executed. So since JavaScript is a programming language, it includes many of the same elements you find with other language. For example, it includes variables, control structures, like if and else statements, the loop which you have. Suppose if this particular thing is done, then what should be the loop in there? Data structure like arrays and also and forth. So JavaScript execute and respond to the event on the page. For example, when I click on any button on the page, I may launch a window which will open in a separate tab, or maybe when I clicking on a particular menu, the sub menu opens. When I click on a sub menu, a new page opens, like in an e-commerce site. So JavaScript is basically very tied up with HTML. It prompt a open box in the web page to load. It will create lot of interactive things in your page. So like this is what is called this. So let's now, so this is how one example I have given here. Okay, you can look into it. So the prompt box which is opening, it asks you for your name. Suppose this is a prompt box which opens, a form box. Suppose you visit a e-commerce site for the first time. For the first time visitor, there is a first time visitor box which opens, which asks you for your name and email ID. And mostly they try to attract you by saying that if you provide us with your detail, we give you 10% discount, or a coupon can be used. This is just to make sure that they have your record and they pursue you so that you can keep on visiting their site. Okay. So this is a, like say, name box which appears. And when you write a name, it returns a greeting on the web page saying that, hello, some whatever is your name. So the JavaScript is taking the word type into the window, which is your name, and creating a response, which is hello. Like, for example, if I write my name, Anita, say hello, Anita. So that's how the JavaScript works. So now we have learned about 3 technology students, which is behind the web development, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. There is one more feature you need to learn, which is called framework. Okay. Now, if you learn a program for a web, you will also encounter framework. In this context, a framework is what? A framework is some pre-written codes that you may use to create all or a part of your website. Right? A part of your website, you don't need to write a code. It will be available in the form of framework. So framework often consists of CSS and JavaScript, not HTML. Okay. So some rely on HTML also being crafted in certain way, but mostly it is CSS and JavaScript. A commonly used framework that is beginner friendly is Bootstrap, which you will find in getbootstrap.com. You can go to this site. Okay. If you want, I can write this site. Just give me a few seconds. So you can check that. I will just show you also a little bit demo of that. Okay, when I'm teaching the GitHubs, little bit about GitHub. That time I will tell you. Okay, so very beginner friendly would so the commonly used, as I said, the framework is a getbootstrap.com. That's Bootstrap, originally which was released in 2011. So Bootstrap originally functioned as a very fast and easy way to create a responsive website. With Bootstrap, you may create a website layout, buttons, colors, font scheme, functionality like drop downs, the buttons, model windows. So more recently, JavaScript framework have been, becoming very popular nowadays. Like for example, there are certain things called Facebook React, open source Vue, then Google Angular. All these names you want, you can write it down. These are the very important and popular framework for front-end development. So like from Facebook, you have React, open source Vue, and Google has Angular. So the framework is generally into two major, are used basically for two major reasons in programming. The reason is the most people want to discuss is that the framework significantly speed up the development time for building a website and web application. So significant portion of your code is already written, and some part of the framework may be designed to quick customization, like color, font, layout. You don't have to write coding for that. You just have to use those framework like a tool, and you can do that. So developer may also write additional framework if you want and put it to make a customized solution for a client. So framework are maintained by a team of people and often free, so that the code could be updated on a regular basis. I'll just give you an example that how do you understand framework? Framework can be in the form of like unfinished furniture kits, and which you need to assemble. For example, like you go over to IKEA, they will give you all kinds of, they will not give you assembled or ready-made furniture. They will give you unfinished furniture, which is in the parts, their parts. And they will give you a kit also and tell you how you can assemble that. To assemble this unfinished furniture, you require certain tools, you require the knowledge, to put it together. And when you put it all together, when you have the knowledge of all those knowledge, you require those kinds of three technology which I discussed with you. So these tools are just like Bootstrap, which is available like in the pieces. You just have to assemble and make your own furniture, which you have a knowledge to do with your all these three technology. And what you can maximum do is with those, you can add your own special touch and customize the furnitures. The basic tool is available to you in the form. You use that tool, and the framework is a tool, and then and you can have a special touch or personalized touch. So framework may also serve as a crutch in the web development rather than, truly. So rather than a truly learning, HTML, what I'm advising you people is that if you want to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and using a framework for a product, please learn framework also. So in order to boost developer, the framework will remain as a crutch to build something. Okay. So unfortunately, these products are all over the web. I might be giving you few names, which I know. So certain applications are, not, you will not like it, or it will not be user friendly to you. So you find which one is better for you, which you can understand easily. And I recommend that you learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript as their own format, and then add framework to boost your web development skills. Okay. Now, what are the supporting, web development technologies? Right. Now, you know how to develop, you have learned the coding and all everything. Okay. But you need an editor also. Because when you write a book, for example, you are writing a book, you'll write all the pages of the book. And finally, your book before publishing, you want an editor to check that and to finalize it before you publish. So similarly, here also you required. So CodePen is an example. Okay. the awesome way to learn the code. You can go to the code pen, CODEPEN. You can go there and learn a very awesome way to learn codes. And you can quickly share codes with others using that. It's very simple to learn. The simplest you want, you need a text editor to edit your HTML, CSS, and this is what I'm talking about, the editor. So you need a text editor to edit your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript coding files. Notepad on Windows, text edit on Macs are already present in your computer, right, which you are using. However, these programs they are lacking something. So starting with the code is not a color code, for example. Maybe it's very difficult for you to find sometimes the errors on your code. You can write code with this program, but you don't find where is the error. When you're running it is not showing the desired result. So there are many choices for the code editor, which are free of cost. My choice and my, from last 5-6 years when I'm using this, I basically prefer the most developed tool, which is called Visual Studio Code, VS Code. And it is free. It runs on Windows, Mac, Linux, and it comes from Microsoft. VX Code used in number of, website building, like any social networking site also, they have used that. Recently, VS Code was made to run directly on a web browser, and you can access this version of VS Code at vscode.dev. Okay, I'll just mention that on the chat box. Okay, so another favorite is Atom AIO. So this is free, as I told you. This one is also there, atom.io, which is from GitHubs. Okay, GitHub, you will be taught by, I think, Altaf sir. So Atom is also free and it runs on Mac and Linux and Windows. Atom is, again, as I said, it's an open source. It can be highly customizable. So developers mostly like to use Atom also as a workspace. So these are the two editors which are from the Microsoft. GitHub was purchased by Microsoft in 2018. The VS Code and Atoms were created in 2014, prior to their merger, the Microsoft merger with GitHubs. So many designers are very fan of, before the Atom and this came, before their merger, people were using brackets.io. Bracket was an editor from Adobe, and it ran on Mac and Windows both. Adobe has released Bracket as an open source project, and Sublime Text was also web developers, favorite for many years, but now it has fallen out of the favorism. So sublimetext.com. So this is also one of the editor. It has a free, $80 to use editor kind of thing, but many things are premium also. Many front-end developers still have Sublime installed on their machine. If they have if they use it, it works on both Mac, PC, Linux. So there are just handful of some of these editor which I know. And maybe when you are doing it for a company, your employer will point out a certain kind of editor and ask you to do that. But if you learn any one of these editor, it will be easy for you to learn any, any new editor also which is available, because all work in the same way. Now let's look into how do you keep your file organized. Keeping file organized, because web development, all the web pages are a file which you have to store in some space, right? How do you keep it organized? So GitHub is a technology that used throughout the web development. And unfortunately, there are few explanations to describe that what is the purpose, because their purpose is becoming little expanded now. So let's talk about Git. GitHub, why these tools are becoming so important today, and it is must that every developer should know about GitHub. And I think Altaf sir is going to create do a one session for you people. I requested him and the management also that you should know about GitHubs. So important, this is a very important today in the development environment. So it's just like, I'll give you an example how it works. Suppose if you have created a Microsoft Word document and you may go for the version 1, version 2, version 3. Ultimately, you have a final version. Okay. The document final or final version. So you will name it as document final. Then you make some changes and write document final. And then you say document real final. Like, for example, I'm just giving you. So you have done all the changes and ultimately you have these things. So instead of writing this, sometime what you do is you put a version. Document version 1, document version 2, document version 3. Like, for example, in my workplace when I work, just a minute. So what happens when we make some documents, like, for example, recently the NAB was implemented. So we'll be making a lot of documents and policies for NEP. Just a minute. So we were asked to make, and we were learning stage. So we made sort of documents. So I started naming it as, NEP document May 2021, 2022, 2020, May, June, July, like this, so that we remember that what is the latest date. So like this, you do also the same thing when you want to have the different version, and then ultimately you get a version which is better than the earlier version. Okay. So when you keep, and you will always keep the earlier version of your document in case if you want to go back and see, suppose. Okay. So if someone decided that they like suppose you have sent the third version, final version to your boss, and the boss says, no, the first version was also okay. So you'll not delete it, you will keep it. This is what Git was designed to do. So Git in the GitHub is a software program that runs on the command line on your computer. Git will do all the thing I just described, be keeping all the version of your documents. It will keep all the version of your coding. It will enable a rollback to your earlier version of the code, right? It will track all the change you have made in all the version. So Git is great, but it is little difficult. It's not difficult now, but it will also allow you to share your coding file with others. Okay. So GitHub comes with that. Git means going back to your earlier version and tracking the change, whereas GitHubs is like keeping all the version, all the file management combined with the sharing of the file with the team of people. So if you are working in a project, or if you're working as a student, you're working in a project, all of you write codes, or all of you are working on the same thing, you all can contribute and share the file and keep it in the GitHub. So while you may, I will just show you how it is by one example. So while you are, so Git is deeply integrated into GitHubs. Git is keeping the versions, which I told you. That's the name, meaning of the Git. So people normally get confused with it, but Git means that only, keeping the old version and tracking the change. So let's look at a typical GitHub page using a bootstrap. I'll just give you an example and take you to the site of the GitHub now. So GitHub page, I have taken an example which has a bootstrap as an example. And the page which is created for bootstrap by somebody else, not my page. It's called github.com/WTWBS. I will write that page also for you to refer later on. So you will see a team of people who have contributed. There's a project called Bootstrap Project. There are 16 people who have contributed to that project. This people, whatever people have written and made changes, there is a repository which is made called repos. There are individual projects within the Bootstrap organization. In Bootstrap, there is an actual Bootstrap framework also, which is in the form of icon and blog. Everything is there. So it includes files, folder, pieces of software. And inside this, we have access to the code. We have something called Bootstrap repo, where we have the access to the code. Under the code tab, there's a code tab also where you can see the code. Then what is a current code, that also you can see in the current code tab. Then we have a tab for issues where the users are reporting bugs. For example, you write a code and somebody run that code and find some bug and report that. So that is also, they can put it in the issue tab. That's how the people together collaborate and work. And the other problems, there is a pull request where someone has written some code, they would like to contribute it to the project. There's somebody outsider or your friend says that, though I am not into this project, but I will contribute to something. I will write it and give it to you. So that is also there. The maintenance team will decide which to, then your main team and the core team will decide, okay, fine, if you want to pull this request, we can release. And finally, you release the version of the bootstrap. Okay. So just give me a few seconds. I will just show you the example of that. Okay, so just let me go to the example now. Okay. So can you all see now? Okay. So this is the, the GitHub site where we have a bootstrap project. If you can see that, this is a project. So many people are following that. So it's just like a social networking site for developers. And you have an overview. This is a community, front tool. This is important. So people can find out all the kinds of, if you click on this, for example, if I click on this, I can see all the codes which is written, updated codes, code number, and all these things. When you click on this, you can see this code. See, everything is there. Then the updated one is also written. So this is code. These are the 8 issues which are reported, right? So people have noted certain kinds of bugs and you have to sign. It is free of cost. There are 3 requests which was sent and so many pull requests which somebody has sent certain contribution and 3 were pulled from there. These are actions you can see here. Then you have security issues, everything. So this is how, and also so if you see here, there are repositories and this is the 2 projects. If you can go ahead and see, these are the 2 projects. The version 1, as I was telling you about this, if you go to repository, you will find all these are different kinds of repositories, blog, all these are different kinds of projects over there. There are a lot of discussion, people, and there's a very important thing here. How many people have participated in this and how many people are sharing the same project and contributing? You can see all these other people, 14 people. Okay. So, I've requested Altaf sir will teach you one day how to use this. All of you must know it. There is no escape from it. Don't think that, oh, I don't want to learn. You should learn it. Okay. This is very, very important that you should know about GitHubs. Okay. Okay. So let's now just give me a few seconds. So we've learned about GitHubs now. Let's look into, this is what I was showing you. Now let's look about certain more concept about web designing. So web, and then you can host also your, okay, that I will tell you later, little later. Now, very important. Now you know about technologies behind web development, which you should know. You should know about the supporting framework. You should know the repository where you can share and together you can collaborate and make a file, which is GitHub. So apart from this, the web server or the technology, when you want to run your own site, the site is made of lot of web pages, and these web pages are filed where you have to store the file. you need a space to put this file on, which will be publicly available somewhere. And that particular thing is called web hosting. So when you're hosting your own website on your computer, you can do that also, which you really should not. Your internet service provider may give you some rules prohibiting you from doing this. And even it will have a lot of issues like that. So what we are going to do is web hosting is becoming very cheap nowadays. There are many companies who are offering you the web hosting services. And if you are building a simple website with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or maybe without any code, the web host will support you. And the simplest option may be through GitHub also. The GitHub has a very good one, which is called free GitHub page services. So that's called pages.github.com. You can visit that and you can see that what I mean. You may post your website code on and view the site through the services. There are many other type of web hosting available, like shared web hosting. Shared web hosting is, the kind of a web hosting where one web server has thousands of other company web pages also hosted on their site. Okay, like GoDaddy.com on WordPress, like that. Okay, and you share the server with thousands of other sites also, and their traffic also. So hosting is cheap, other less than the $100 per year it can be. So customization of hosting account is actually limited, or you may run, it may sometime happen that there is a disadvantage that maybe the server is not strong to handle so many requests, or it may run slow due to the other side on the same server, sucking up all the server's resources. So, and also very expensive to exit. Your performance of the website, speed, and all those may vary. So sometimes people may go for a virtual private server, VPS, which will have a fewer account per server, and maybe a dozen or something. You could go with a dedicated server also, where you have a control over an entire server of your own work, like big company does. So they have your own server, one web server, which is dedicated, like all Amazon and all these e-commerce site, even all the other IT companies also. When they are providing any service, they need to have a dedicated web server for this. So they have their own server because it's an IT company. So they don't do that. But sometimes, even if you're hosting on a cloud platform, you can have a dedicated VPS server. So that's not an issue at all. Okay. You have to pay more for that. Okay. Suppose if you have a school website or a college website or something like that. Even the Netflix also, if you say they don't host their entire web pages or sites on their own server. They host it on AWS. Okay. So then the next one is called cloud hosting. The cloud hosting, just now I told you, the Netflix, all these, especially the Netflix with so much of data which they have, so many pages, so many, information which is stored. They require a huge space. They keep on upgrading. So they need to upscale on their spaces and all. So they use cloud hosting, which is a better and a cheaper option for them, which provides security. Anytime they can scale up and scale down their hosting space, what they want. They have ton of traffic coming to their, so many millions of people connected. So cloud hosting will accommodate all those things, and it will also, there will be no problem 24/7 it will run. Speed will not be a problem and everything. Okay. Pricing for a cloud hosting is generally, it depends on the usage. So how much traffic is coming, that much you have to pay. So it's a model called pay as you go. And when you are doing any kind of a real starting, you can start with WordPress, or you can start with GitHub also. The second very important part in website is selecting or registering a domain name. So domain name is the address of your website. For example, www.google.com is the address of Google. So domain names are often inexpensive. You have to purchase that. So along with the hosting services, nowadays you get the domain name also purchased. So to choose a very good domain name, think like that it is easy to say, so that, you should, domain name choosing domain name is also very important, because it is your identification of your company. For example, your company like Flipkart. So flipkart.com is the name of the company. Flipkart is the name of the company, so the domain name also should be same. Otherwise, people, if you have the name of the company is Flipkart and you write something like e-card or something as a domain name, people will not identify your domain name with your company. So it's very important that it should get relate to your business and the business name. Your name should be something which can be easily, you can like lenscard.com or something like that, or pepperfry.com. So it should not be very difficult. You should also have a lot of variation on domain name. For example, if you are not able to get .com, sometimes people go for .biz or org, something like that. Okay. Sometimes even go for nowadays very fancy name, like for example, .rocks, Jan Karamar .rocks. I saw once a website like that. So just because you purchase a domain name does not mean you use it, right? You will be asked to pay a fee to renew your name once in a year. You will not own it for a lifetime. Every year you have to renew your hosting. You have to pay for the hosting charges and you have to pay for your domain name. And the price may vary from $10 to $100 per year, depending on the name you choose. Domain name can be associated with a country also, just like I have shown here in the slide. Like .in is for India. So amazon.co.in or flipkart.in or amazon.com.uk, like all those names are there for a country. You can add it, which specify that this is a domain name ending with a company, like .com.ua is an Australian name. So today there are hundreds of ending for domain name, which can go beyond .com, .net, .org, which is very common. You can buy a name, for example, for education, it can be ac.in. For guide, it can be .guide, .dev, .app. So many domain name has come today. So you can purchase domain name. For that, you will need to go for a domain name registration. Your web host may sell domain name for purchase, which is often easier solution for you to start with. You may also buy, suppose if you don't want, you're not getting it, the name which you want, or you're not getting the suggestion. Sometimes they give you a suggestion also. You can also go to a domain name registrar like domain.google. Once you have purchased the name, you need to work with your web host to point the name from the registrar to the hosting. So whatever domain name you have chosen, that name you have to be very wise to choose that. Okay. And the domain name is like a site, sign on the road sign on like internet. It is also called DNS, domain name system. You have to follow that. Your web hosting company and domain name registrar will have a very explicit instruction for making these changes. If you want to do something, you can't change, but then there are certain things which you can do about it. If you often, sometimes they may give you 48 hours also to make some changes. Sometimes they may make some changes for you. So domain name, when you type on your web browser, your website and your web hosting will be pulled up. Most developer owns a few dozen domain names. Sometimes they do that. Most of these names aren't in use. So they often do a brainstorm for a few new services. They find out which domain name is best and they make a portfolio and a blog out of it. Okay. So this is one thing. Now let's look into something which I am interested and I will be teaching you through it. So this is about a project which we will be doing. Tomorrow I will give you, but today I will just give you a demo of it. So today, because in this particular group, you have some set of students who are from BCom and other stream non-engineering background. So they might be thinking by now that, this is not my cup of tea. I don't know HTML. I don't know CSS. I don't know JavaScript. And I think it is very difficult because anytime when new technology comes, the first feeling comes is difficult. I can't do it. For them, there's a solution. And this is what even I do with my management students who are from non-engineering background. And I make them create an entire e-commerce website, which is functional e-commerce website. Right? Maybe in due course of time, I may take you through those websites example and show you. And there are certain students who are from undergraduate who have no knowledge of web development, and within few days they developed a wonderful interactive website with payment gateway integrated, with web analytics integrated, with all marketing tool integrated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you project, but before that I will give you a demo, and I know that you all will learn within few days, and this will be center wise. Maybe you can make a group. Last time also we did the same thing, and the same website, then we will see that how we can host it on cloud platform, okay, in a different platform also. So the web pages, as I said, that if you want to learn HTML, you need to also learn about FTP. So many things you need to learn about things. So initially, there were a few, website which came as no coding tool, like drag and drop kind, like how do you make a PowerPoint? It is so simple like that. So Microsoft front page was there, then Macromedia Dreamweaver were there. These are the first visual editor for creating a web page. And they automated testing the web host, all those kinds of things. This was considered as no code AI at that time. But after, in early 2000, demand has grown where people said that we don't want to be a HTML developer, So there were certain things like CNN had come with the, content networking. So they had come up with a tool like content management system, which has become a very big industry now. So the companies like open source company with a no code tool, or the content management system company, which we say CMMS, is Joomla, Drupal, WordPress is most common. Okay, but I will be using the other platform, which I will tell you. These software are very free. They give you hosting services also. You can buy a domain name. You can make a free blog and convert it into a website, which we will do it now and learn it. So today, WordPress is one of the most powerful now. It alone powers 40% of the website, according to some survey. WordPress runs 65.1% of the sites today. They may host, they may domain, and it is a low code tool. I will not teach you WordPress. You will learn on your own. I will teach you which sites. Okay. There's also one site which I teach normally, and I feel it is more user friendly than WordPress. It has a lot of features like that. I'll show you a demo today of that. So in 2021, a lot of sites came, just like a website like Bloggers, Blogspot, or your WordPress, which created a wave of no-code web designing tool. And this no-code web designing tool does not require any kind of a background knowledge of HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. So isn't it a good news? So maybe some of you might have felt, oh, ultimately, I have not made a wrong choice of selecting this course. Even in AI also, you have no-code AI, which I will teach you sometime. Okay. So I focus more on this because this will be how the future will go ahead, where you don't have to write a code. Today, you know what? You go to Chat GPT 3, now 4 has come, and you write a CSS code or HTML code for this, making a chat bot. Automatically, everything comes out. So there's a question mark, that whether you require developer in the future or not. So it's better that I'm not saying you should not learn. At the same time, you should know how to design a website, interactive website using a no-code solution. Okay. And these no-code solutions are becoming very, very popular because it is easy to do. It is very, very user-friendly. It has a lot of things. You can integrate also code with them. So the website, which the development tool where I'm going to take, that also has, even WordPress has, you can even integrate JavaScript into it. So there is a developer tool also inbuilt into it. So you can use that. You can write a code like an API, all those kinds, right? And you have lot of problem and lot of thing which is solved, okay, on this. So There are a lot of platform like that, which we are going to use. So let's look into the practical, like this is a WordPress one. So now what we are going to do, student, is I'm going to give you a project, which I will give you a demo tomorrow. I request all the centers and all the students that tomorrow, if possible, all of them can be seated with computers, with internet, so that there and then itself the student learn by doing it. Because I believe that students, if they learn by doing, is a better understanding and better knowledge. And let me tell you also the objective of doing this, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to teach you, not Hindi entirely, but I'm going to teach you that the website design is a very, it's an art. Okay, technology is all okay and all that you will learn, but it's a creative work. Sometimes the client come to you and they say, I want to open a site. Like a lot of people have come to me and told me when I was doing this, and they said, I want a site which is not very expensive and it should be beautiful. The people looking at it want to actually browse it. The main purpose of a website is that it should draw traffic. You are able to draw traffic because of a lot of digital tool, marketing tool you have used, SEO and all those kinds of stuff. But are you able to retain the traffic? If your website is navigation is very difficult, if your website design, and if your website is not at all in one look, if I look at your site page, the home page, it should attract me to stay back in your site. Like for example, when you it's just like I tell students that when you go to mall, you will browse all the shop from the window shopping, what we say, and you will look at the store window, and every good shopkeeper will make very attractive all the best dresses on the showroom window, which is visible to you. And you looking at that decide whether I should walk in. There are two things to decide. One is brand, another is the window dressing. So there are now people hired with these expertise. So website designing student is a creative work. You need to know that how are you going to place your menu? What will be a background? Simple things like background design, font style, font design, how you're going to structure and the layout of your web page. What kind of interactive elements you're going to add? What kind of animations you're going to add? For that, the first step before you design really a good website using all those technologies which we discussed today, please go ahead and develop. So what are we going to do now? From today, I will just give you a demo. Tomorrow I'll teach you. And you will be also doing with me. In group, you all are going to make one website. It can be an e-commerce site. It can be a information provide site. It can be OTT, anything. You can make a site, and that will be not a website, because for website, you need to buy a domain name. You want to host it. I don't want you to invest money in that. We will be doing a blog, which will be a prototype of the website. As I told you, students, that prototype is must. When you make a blog, the blog you can replicate or you can just publish it by buying a domain name and hosting for plan for that. So let me take you through some of the sites which I have opened on my browser. I have so many blogs which I have kept. I normally ask my students to go through, first make the blog, and then if they find that it is good, convert it into. So these are very simple one which I'm going to show you now. Okay. Let me share. Because I use it for education purpose. The basic one. Okay. Not very great, but you can still see. So this is my at CMS, and you can see it's not so great, but then still it is there. So just use it for the purpose when LMS was not there. As to use this an interactive dashboard kind I made, some exercise on Excel and all these things I used to give them. Then PPT for them. So this I was using for one particular subject as an LMS. But now we have LMS, so I don't use this often. But then I'm going to show you a blog which I have created because I teach a subject called e-commerce. And for that, I give them a project where they have to create a real functional e-commerce website, and they have to integrate the payment, traffic, and digital marketing tool into it. So I'll just show you that, which I've opened. It's taking time to open now. Just give me a few seconds. So this is a platform which is very user friendly. For first time, actually, I asked students to use this platform, which is Wixsite, instead of WordPress. So the WordPress is also very good. But then I find for beginners, just give me a few seconds. Okay, so you can see here, this is a dashboard of this is a blog now. I've not purchased a domain name. You can see it is asking me to connect to a domain name and buy a hosting plan. And this was actually a kind of a thing where I have tried to create an e-commerce site. Okay. And if I can go to editor tool, because so many things are happening, so it is a little slow. Just wait for a second. It's going to happen. While it is uploading this, it's very slow actually. So just go here. How to load this? Okay. Okay, so while it is opening that page, it's a little slow. I'll just show you that this was basically a kind of a site where you have a big site where they have integrated tool, because I choose to create a e-commerce site. So it has a integrated e-commerce tools. Like for example, for marketing, for stored product inventory, you can create all these tools. Then you have a contact form where you can have first visitor form. You can have a lot of automation. You can do marketing tool like email marketing, Google Ads, social media marketing, designing a coupon, then analytics and reports, traffic overview, sales overview. All these I will show you. Let's upload the page first. I just wanted to show you the just just give me a few seconds. It's going to come. Meanwhile, you can ask me questions. You can post your question. I can look into it. This is going to, it's taking little more time to upload. I don't know what is happening. Let it get uploaded. If you have any questions, students, meanwhile, you can ask me. Because what we are going to do is tomorrow, I request all the centers that if the students can sit with a computer in front of them, so that what we can do is we can first start with creating a blog. And for this particular blog, and I'll make sure that I have the just give me a few seconds. Yeah, now it has opened. I'll just show you the demo of that. Okay, can you all see? Can anybody confirm? Okay. So you can see that it's a normal blog which I have created. Okay. It's a site. And if you can see here, I have the very simple navigation with menu and sub menu, like it's a dressing kind of a thing. Then I created a panel with some design on it. Then there's a designer studio about us. Then there's a login and there's a shopping cart. And this is the entire web page, if you can see here. And then there is something which if you click on it, it goes to that particular thing. Then I have a contact form here. Okay. And see here. Then I created a hyperlink of the other pages into it. So this is how the thing was created. You can see here. So this is about how do you put the layout of your web page, how interactive it is, how easy navigation, how easily you can navigate that. So for that, you need to have an idea that it's about creating a design. How you need to have an idea that how your website should look. What kind of styling element, what kind of creativity you're going to put it in your website. So that's very, very important. And for that, the first exercise only is create a blog, and then go and do with no code AI, no code tools. You don't have to do. I guess tomorrow I will show you. You just have to log in with a Google ID, and then you have to select a template of the web page, and you can create a many web page. You can hyperlink a link into it. So many backlinks, so many scrolling elements, so many animation, very easily done. And if you want to integrate a JavaScript into it, that also you can do it. So it's very easy nowadays. When you are doing the same thing, it's very difficult because so many things you have to integrate. You should have an idea that if I want to create an e-commerce website for a company, then how it should be, what are the various pages it should be integrated, and what are the various services. For example, e-commerce site should be functional site. It should be able to search. It should have a search bar. It should have filters by product, by price and all. It should have integrated payment gateways to accept the payment. It should have a delivery options, so many things to be integrated. So first step is create a blog. So we will do that exercise tomorrow. So I'll take up the questions now. How does a server get the data that is stored there? For example, movie, song, or any information from which means does it receive? See, when, for example, you're going on a Netflix and you click on a particular movie. So automatically that particular movie, the browser, the web browser will take that particular request and go to the web server. The web server will have all the indexing done. And there will be a kind of a indexing code over there. So it will take the code, get that from the, extract that from the database of all the movies, and get all the related movies, images, video and audio, and will send it to your web browser. And then the web browser land that on your device. That's how it works, right? So everything has a link, everything has a backlink, everything has a indexing link. All these happens. So is cloud and server the same? They both do the same task. See, the server is basically, cloud is a concept of services on the internet. So the companies who are providing data store or application based, like Amazon Web Service, or it can be a Microsoft, any company's cloud servicing platform, where you can hire them for using their machines, their hardware, or hosting your web application. Whereas the servers can be yours. Not necessary that all big companies have their own server. Even what about big companies? Even you have a business, you can buy a server for yourself. And server is a centralized computer which is connected to different computer through internet, and that particular centralized computer will do and serve those computer which are connected and do certain tasks for them. For example, if it is a data server, it will, all the people who are connected to that, all the computer who are connected to that server, whatever work they are doing, that work will not get stored in their computer, it will go and get stored in centralized computer. So that's a concept of the server. And cloud is something, is a service where you go ahead and take a space to serve. So you can have a server on a cloud. So servers and cloud is a different concept, not same. But you can have server on the cloud. You can take somebody else, third party services like IBM or AWS or Microsoft, and take their space and make a server. And when you have your own server, that means like Amazon, Google, all these companies, or Flipkart, they have their own server. You're not hosting on somebody else's server. Ma'am, do I need to have a computer for tomorrow's session as your class started at 5 p.m.? My institute closes at that time. It is better if you have, because otherwise you can share it. If you're coming to some place, then, or you may take your laptop with you in the institute, or if your institute has a lab or something, if you can access that, you can do it. Otherwise, You can go through the YouTube link. Arinakshi ma'am can share the link with them, and you can practice that, learn it tomorrow. But ultimately, I want this project to be done at least by next week. All the team should make a website, sorry, not a website, a blog, by taking one particular industry and first visualize the structure, that how you want to make a web page, what will be the design of the home page, how many sub pages, or how many, what is a menu design, all those things you decide and make it. Ma'am Chandrakant from Hubli KTC. What is KTC? Okay. I had registered a domain name tradebigtrends.com in my name in 2011. It was about investing, and trading was functional for a year. Disinfect from 2012. Not touched the website since then. Tried to sell the name but could not. Can I sell it now? But how can you sell the name, Chandrakant? Because see, domain name is something which you have purchased. You don't have a copyright on that. But if you have not used it for a long time, and they have certain in W3C, they have certain kinds of a regularity. I don't remember what are the regularity related to that. But that domain name, if it is not public and if it is available, it can be taken by somebody else. But if it is in use, and totally if you have dismantled it, but selling it, yes, selling it, you can do it in the form that I don't know what are the rules and regulation, but you can tell a particular thing that, okay, fine. It's like I was selling your business name to somebody else. But I have no idea that how do you sell it online. You have to find that on yourself. Ma'am, as you told about DNS, I have heard that DNS provide many services, one of which is aliasing. What is that? Like hosting, aliasing, what's the need of? I have not understood, Dakshita, what is this aliasing means. If the spelling is not correct, or I am not able to understand it. So if you can be a little specific and write it, then I may try to look into it, what you mean. Yes, any other question? Yeah, any other question? Okay, just give me a few seconds. Okay, if you're talking about alias, that's a host name, alternative name. Are you talking about that? That defining an alternative name for existing website? Suppose if you set up and register the DNS or domain name, so you may have extra host name. I was telling about that. Okay. Like if you have a particular name, host name, and you want to set up and register another domain name also to use. Sometimes what people do is, certain companies, they will buy many alternative names. For example, Amazon. So Amazon.com is one name. Then Amazon.co.uk, Amazon.co.in. Like this, then there can be a single domain name for multiple sites. That also can happen. Merchant can create an alias for, I'm sorry, I may not be able to pronounce that very well. So you can have www, for example, myshop.com/US, or you can have www, second look site, alternative site, www.my/shop.com/UK. You have one US, UK. That means different extension you can keep if you are talking about that. So you can have a single domain name for multiple site, or you can have a multiple domain. A merchant can purchase a new site name, and the same thing, he wants a old domain name to remain active, like somebody was telling in that time. Because you had an old domain name, your traffic coming. So suppose your domain name is www.myshop.com, and myshop.com you want to have one more site which is extension of that or be sister concern, but you want people, because people are more familiar with my shop, so you will retain that thing. So you will write www, like for example, my other shop domain, my other shop.com, like this. So you can have a misspelling of certain names. Okay. For example, Amazon is a patent. You can't get a domain name called www.amazon.com. So what people do is they will put, instead of Amazon, they will put 2O in that. AMAZOON or AMAAZON. Misspell it, write some number or write two common, and then you can get that domain name. And a lot of fake sites are available like this, right? So you can have that. If I am understanding what you're trying to understand, lies means for multiple sites same name, or single site different domain name. See, domain name Mohammed Sadiq is very essential, just like your business name. Sadiq, if you want to start a company, will you not give a name to that company? Today, people give name to their houses also. How your company is recognized? So if your company is recognized by certain name and you want to go online, people know your company by that name. Because as soon as, for example, as soon as we hear Netflix, we know that Netflix is a company which is an OTT platform and providing the entertainment content to us. What if the Netflix, suppose, was a rental company offline, which was their own initial business, and when they want to go online, they're not getting a domain name called netflix.com, and they change it and they write moviesonline.com. So will you be able to understand whether the moviesonline.com is same company, which is in offline, is a company called Netflix? So it is very essential that when you're choosing a domain name, it's very essential you need to have a domain name. If you're choosing a domain name, it should relate to your business. It should be same as your business name. Okay, so it's very important. Okay, anybody else? See here, Shriram, you've written google.com. What is Google and what is com? See, Google is the name of the company. Like if I have to write, I have my site, I have not renewed the domain name, so it is no longer available. I was very lucky that I got a website called www.anitawalia.com, which is my name. Suppose if I wouldn't have got Anita Walia, I would have written anitaw.com or something like that. So Anita Walia is my name. Similarly, Google is the name of the company. Okay. And .com is the extension which tell about the site. Normally, the .com extension always tell it is a commercial site. AC tell that it is a academic site. Edu also tell it is a educational site. Info says that it's an information providing site. So normally people take .com if they are going for a commercial website, especially the e-commerce or Google or IBM or any company. Okay. Any more questions? Now I want to know that have you people understood? Please write down whether have you understood or was it, something, because then I will change the course of my session. Because today I thought I will just start from the basic and tell you that if you want to become a web developer, then it's you should know that these are the things you should learn, and you should know about hosting. What are the web hosting platform like GoDaddy, AWS, Wix, Blogspot, WordPress? So many domain hosting are there. From the same place, you have to buy the domain name also. You can buy it from there. Okay. So are we ready to go for this practical session tomorrow? Better, students, if you can, maybe in a group you can do. All these will be done in a group. I don't want to see individual. In a group, you people can take this and decide. Tomorrow we will learn it. I'm not saying tomorrow only you do it. Tomorrow you just learn with me how to create, how to use editors, how to use different tools to create a web page, to create a scrolling bar, to create a menu, to do a linking of one page to the other page. How do you create animation in that? How do you even use the developer tools? Whatever is possible in tomorrow 2 hours, I will show you that by taking an example, by creating a site in front of you. Blog, I'm saying, free of cost. And again, the blog also have a domain name, but it is not of your choice. Domain name is something which you choose, and if it is available. Whereas in the blog, you don't have a choice. You will just get what you want. You can choose a name, but if it's not available, it will have the name of wixsite.com, or it may have an email address of. So when you're creating, create a new Gmail ID and do that. So in a group, you all will take one example. Suppose you want to build a banking website. Suppose you want to build an e-commerce website. Suppose you want to build a OTT platform, or you want to build a simple information website about an institute and tell them with 3-4 pages, to tell students that what is their course all about, what kind of programs, and what is the testimonial, what are the different things you want to add. So you have to, and in a website, it is not only the layout of the web page, designing of the web page, which is important. It is also important the content of the web page. Firstly, the content of the web page which you are publishing should be original mostly. Otherwise, there will be a copyright issue. The pictures which you are using should be, all these I will tell you tomorrow. Okay. Okay, so what you can do is those who are not able to sit with the computer tomorrow may make a note, students. It's very important that you should always write down certain sites your experts are telling or anybody is telling you. It's going to help you because there's so many resources available on net. It is the only thing is you have to learn. Not everything can be taught to you. We just teach you a drop in the ocean, rest a little bit of water, or maybe a glass or a half glass of water you have to make on your own. And how do you go about it? How do you take the direction? We are giving you a direction. So please make sure that you write all about it. Okay. Tomorrow, let us be ready to do some practical session. Let's have an idea with the blog that how a web page should look, what kind of interactive element should be there. And then with your, next stage will be with your trainers, offline trainers. You learn and develop the same site with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And we will also go ahead in the third step in the web development where we can try to create a static page and all those we have done with the last batch also. It was a wonderful thing. I know that you people are also very good and better than them. So you may be able to use now cloud platform. Don't think that I have not taken cloud computing. I should know. You should know that cloud platform computing platform like AWS also allow you to create and host a web page. So we can learn all those things also. Okay. Yes, WordPress and certain even the Wix sites have now integrated something called AI. That also, because with the AI, like for example, Wix site, what we'll do is slowly, see, it's a combined collaborative project. The people who have taken a web development, let them do in a team. There should be all kind of people who are learning different technologies. So people who have taken a web development, let them do the blogging and designing of the site, layout and everything. People who have taken AI, let them integrate the chatbot using a AI. Let them write the code because in Wix site, you have a developer. That's the reason I have taken the Wix site. You have a developer tool also. Using a developer tool, let them develop or integrate a chatbot in that using, AI and all. The cloud computing students will take this and try to host it on AWS. Okay. And also the people who have taken cybersecurity will also try to find out if the data is being pulled from the website into and it is pushed to the data server. What kind of security should be provided? So all people come together and do this. Is the first project from my side. Okay. And as I said that I believe in project-centric learning. If you don't do anything, you won't learn anything. It was just listening from one side. Okay, so I think enough of today's session. So let us, maybe it's a very tiring day for all of you. So what about SAP? Yes, we will do the SAP also. Let's finish this because I don't want to leave anything in halfway. I was requested by your director that I should go with the web development now. Otherwise, I wanted to continue with AI for some more example, but then you already had a lot of sessions on AI. So that's why I moved to web development. Let me complete this project. Next, we will go to SAP. Okay. Okay, then bye.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.